I don't think I look very good on camera though.
아니 예뻐 예뻐.
We really need to have like an intro that says we're twins.
그러게. 야. Hi Jessica.
Hi. I forgot your name. Oh, Gina. My name is Jessica. I've lived in Korea for the last 4 years. I am from Washington D.C. Well, right outside Washington D.C.
How did you decide to come to Korea?
When I first majored in international relations at my college, they were not required but strongly recommended that I study abroad for at least 1 semester. At my school, we didn't have a lot of Korea classes, like history classes or politics classes. And so I decided, I'm gonna go to the Korean one because I can take Korean classes there. Yeah, that was 6 years ago when I first came here, and then I graduated, and then I came back. And so since I came back, it was 4 years.
이거 영어가 안 돼.
알았어.
4년 전에 와서 그러면은 여기에서 어떤 직업들을 가져왔었는지.
When I first came here, I did an internship for a nonprofit. And after that, it was hard to find a job because the nonprofit, as most nonprofits, did not have enough money to hire me. And so I actually found my first job through a friend because she knew someone that was looking for an American to do like social media marketing. And so that was how I got my first job in Korea, was just because I happened to know someone who I met through my study abroad program. It was for an app company.
App?
Yeah, they made mobile apps.
Oh.
So I did social media marketing for them for over a year, and then they actually ended up switching offices. Like they moved their office from Gangnam to somewhere in Gyeonggi-do, which was too far. So I ended up leaving that job, and then after that I worked for an interior design company.
아 진짜?
Yeah.
나 몰랐어.
It was really random, and it wasn't that long actually. I worked there just for a few months because I tried to switch my visa over, but then I had problems with my visa, and so I ended up having to quit. But that was in the trade department. That one I found on a Facebook group. There's actually a Facebook group. I don't know if you know this because you're Korean, but there's a Facebook group called Non-Teaching Job Seekers in Korea.
들어본 것 같아.
Yeah, they have a lot of jobs on there. I think recently there haven't been that many jobs available, I think, for English speakers, but when I first got that job, it was posted on the group. Actually, it seems kind of sketchy at first, because actually the way they wrote it on the board was, we need someone that speaks English. Details will be given later.
Really English?
Really sketchy, and so at first I was like, should I try? I was like, oh, why not? I need a job anyway, so I applied, and then I got a call, and they told me more about the company, and we're an interior design company, and we do this, and this, and you would have to do this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a lot less sketchy than I thought. After that, I ended up switching my visa anyway because me and Garu got married.
맞다. 결혼했죠.
Yeah. We got married, and so I ended up switching my visa. But actually, during that period, you can't switch right away. So it takes a few months. For me, it took 4.5 months to get my visa. But until then, because I didn't have a work visa, I couldn't work actually. So it was kind of a hard period because I was just kind of like, okay, I can't do anything because I just had a D10, which is okay for internships, but it's not okay for full-time work. So I was just kind of hanging out. I was able to do some freelance work. So I did some freelance with I think it was webtoons.
아 진짜?
Yeah, like translating webtoons. It really just changes because it's based on your place of employment. So if I switch jobs, it doesn't automatically transfer over. So if I had, let's say, I think, what's it, E7? E7 is anything that's not teaching English or that's not art, music, entertainment related, I think is E7. And because it doesn't just transfer over, you have to apply again. But the problem was that, at least for social media marketing, it was fine because I had experience in marketing in America, and so I could just show them that I already had some experience, and so it was fine, even though my major didn't directly relate to my job, which is usually important for that visa. Your major is supposed to directly correlate to the job. So, for example, if my major was chemistry, then I can work for a chemistry lab. It's kind of like, it should directly relate to your visa, which makes things kind of hard because in America, you know, you can, let's say if I got a degree in English, I could do anything that's kind of related to writing or media or literally anything. HR, doesn't matter. So for that, it was a little bit difficult because for trade, I had nothing. Even though international relations, you can kind of argue that it's related to trade, but for the immigration office, it wasn't enough. So I've been there so many times. I've had like not all of them, but I've had D2, D10, E6, F6 now. So, and I hear from my friends and other people. So after the interior design and like the awkward period of not being able to work, I worked teaching English because I was like, okay, I need money and I'm going to do anything, so here we go. So I taught English, and it was actually a really great place. They're really nice. The kids were really cute. Of course, we have some jerks with children, but anyways, they were really great. And so I was there, but I was only there for 6 months until I actually found another job for a website. It was a startup website that gives you the chance to try fashion, beauty, and lifestyle products for free.
영어 가르치는 거 말고 한국에서 이런 패션 뷰티 쪽에서 일을 하고 싶은데 어떻게 하냐 이런 걸 많이 물어보시거든.
That one also, I think I found it on Craigslist. Jobs in other languages, Craigslist and Facebook are the most commonly used tools outside of networking. A lot of these things, it's much easier if you can network, because if there's an opening at your friend's company or if they know somebody that knows somebody, it's a lot easier to kind of hear about these kinds of jobs, because otherwise you have to just rely on the websites and they can be a little bit unreliable. And a lot of it, you have to already be here. So I was already in the country, and in this case, I already had my visa as well, so there were no problems. They could just hire me and I would just be a normal worker. But yeah, a lot of the ones, they want to be able to interview in person. They don't want to deal with the hassle of you coming from far away and having to book plane tickets. And the only industry that will pay for your flight is English teaching, just because it's kind of part of the deal now. But, so a lot of it, you have to just kind of come here and then see if you can find a job. If you have a visa or working holiday visa is really great too. I know that just opened up recently for Americans. When I first came here, it was not available. I could not do it. But I think there's a lot of restrictions. I believe you have to be just out of school, maybe. Like, so for example, right now I've already been out of school for 4 years-ish. So I wouldn't be able to do the working holiday visa. Okay, so right now I work for a small production company. It's actually like a Korean-Japanese company. They have branches in both Japan and Korea. Most of their production is related to Japanese artists and TV programs. But we are currently showing a Korean drama. It just started actually, so.
한국 드라마?
Yeah, it's a Korean drama, but it's based off of a Japanese video game.
신기하네.
Yeah.
뭐지?
It's a little bit different.
한국에서 일한다는 거에 대해서 원래 기대했던 거, 예상했던 것과 실제로 일해보니까 어떤 점이 다른지.
Because I had already been here, I had heard about Korean working styles and the culture and the environment before I started working, which is helpful. I would just say that I really didn't think that it would be that rigid. Like, to some extent, I thought people were exaggerating a little bit, because of course when you don't experience something yourself, you kind of have that little bit of doubt. You have that little bit of doubt that you're like, oh, is it really that bad? Or it's like that everywhere, it's fine. But some places that I worked, I'm not going to specify which ones, they were a lot more rigid than I thought they would be, especially because a lot of times they'll say, oh, we want ideas, we want your input, we want you to come up with new ideas and concepts and ways of doing X thing. But then when you do it, they're like, oh no, not that. Nope, not that either. Nope, not that. Nope. And then you kind of just get to the point where you're like, well, what am I doing? What's the point of telling me that you want these new things if you're not actually going to consider it? So I think that part was really difficult for me at first because I wanted to do my job and I wanted to do it well, and I like coming up with new ideas for things, but a lot of Korean companies, they don't actually care.
그러면 그 working hour 같은 거는?
Working hours too, there's a lot of overtime. Even when they say, oh, there's no overtime here, don't worry, there's overtime. There's overtime.
그렇지.
No matter what they say, there's still overtime.
근데 오버타임 하는데 돈 안 주잖아.
Yeah, most places don't give you paid overtime. There are some places that do, and I'm assuming those would be the bigger companies. I haven't worked for like a really huge company in Korea. Like I haven't worked for like Samsung or LG or the Tables or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how things work there. But for like the mid to smaller companies, overtime not paid. Oh, at my company, there.
나 오고 있거든.
Well, the one that I work for now and for a few others that I worked with, we actually eat all together for lunch.
어.
That was really weird for me at first.
그래?
Yeah. Because for me it's just like, oh, lunchtime is my time. And so I don't want to have to do any like work or think about work during my time. But because it was part of the office culture that I just ended up eating lunch with everybody every day. And sometimes we do talk about work. So.
맞아. 나도 그랬어. 나도 회사 다닐 때 다 같이 똑같은 식당으로 나 이거 먹기
Yes.
싫은데 I have to go.
Yes,
가야 돼.
exactly.
가야 되고.
Even if you don't like it, you're like, I don't want to eat this. But that was just what you're eating today.
그 되게 또 이상한 게 점심시간이 1시간이면 1시간인데 내가 밥을 20분 만에 먹었어.
Right.
그러면은 나머지
Right.
시간은 쉬어야 되는데 다 들어와서 일해. 컴퓨터 하고 있어. 나 왜 이거 좀 바뀌어야 될 것 같아.
That happens. That's happened with most of my companies, except for one. I think there's only one where it was like, oh, you just take the full hour, you do what you want. I'm gonna go take a walk because I just don't want to see your faces right now. Here's a tip: there are libel laws and slander laws in Korea, and they are quite intense. So even if you say something that is true, they can still sue you and win. Just a tip for everybody in case you want to brag about your boss. But I will say that I had a boss that was on a power trip a lot and would yell at me a lot.
미국에서 일할 때 받는 돈이랑 월급이랑 우리나라에서 일할 때 받는 월급이랑 조금 차이가 있는지?
In Korea, there's a really big difference. If you teach English, you can pretty much think between 2.1 and 2.3 or 4 for your first job. But you also get your flight taken care of, you get your rent taken care of, you don't have to worry about the housing deposit, security deposit, and stuff like that. So 2.1 and 2.4, 2.1 and 2.4 stands for 2,100,000 won to 2,400,000 won, which roughly correlates to $2,000 to like $2,200. Somewhere in that range, and that's quite normal for either a small company or for teaching English. So it's not very much, especially when you consider like America or Australia. If you eat cheap and you're good with your money, then you can definitely make it last because food here is super cheap.
그래?
Yeah.
싼 거야?
Yeah.
그래?
To me, it's super cheap. Oh, security deposit. I think a lot of people don't know this, that Korea, because in America, what happens is that your security deposit is first and last month's rent.
어.
So in Korea, it's not. It's kind of an arbitrary number, but it could be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 to 15,000 to 20,000 for a one-room studio. And then if you live in an actual apartment, it's probably at least a couple $100,000, I would say. Usually at that point, people do something called chunse, which is where they just put all their money, put all like the few $100,000 into that deposit and don't pay rent. You give it to them and then you pay rent on top of that, which is usually not that much. It should be like probably around like $500 a month. And then you get all that money back at the end. So for anybody that's planning on coming here, make sure you have that money first because that makes a big difference. It's hard to find housing when you're not in the country. I had to ask a friend when I came here the second time because it was just too difficult to find online and to be able to communicate with everybody. But you really don't want to come here and then be like, oh, I only have like a couple $100 to use for my deposit because no one's gonna. That's only good for maybe a guest house, which is fine. You can live in a guest house, but if you're gonna live here long term, I would assume that you would want to stay in an actual place. I think that people that come just because they like K-pop, they might be a little bit disappointed. You should definitely have low expectations of what you want, or if you're coming here for a specific purpose, just don't forget that purpose. Because it's really easy to get lost in negativity when you're really far from home. And I mean, to be honest, people do not look like K-pop stars. I'm sorry. That was one of the first things that my friend said to me when she came to visit. She said, oh, I thought there would be more like good-looking people. And I'm like, well, yeah, they all went into modeling and K-pop.
그래.
So you know, when you're walking on the street, there's people of all shapes and sizes, and there's a huge range. There's ugly people, there's really attractive people.
그치, 뭐 사람들인데 뭐 다 다르지 뭐.
Exactly. So just remember that when people are like, why can't I get a boyfriend that looks like a K-pop star?
건우.
Gunnar does not look like a K-pop star, people.
좀 다음 계획? 여기에서 일하고 싶은 거 다른 거 있는지?
I do. I would like to go more into media and journalism. Right now, I'm still studying Korean.
파이팅! 파이팅!
It's really difficult because, you know, professional Korean is so different from conversational Korean. So I have an online magazine. It's called Dispurs, dispurs.com. So feel free to check it out. It covers a lot of Korean and international fashion, beauty, lifestyle, and it's written in English and Korean. So for people that want to kind of see how their skills stand up, you can have a side-by-side comparison.
오늘 인터뷰 고마워요.
No problem.
네.
Our twinsy look.
그러니까 오늘 딱
We're twins. Look at this. We didn't even plan it. Make sure you make lots of comments in the comment section.
아 그래요. 다음에 봐요.